I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to I'm Sorry, Okay? A podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm Mary, here with Paul and LD. This week we watched Season 1, Episode 2 of Degrassi Junior High, The Big Dance. This episode was written by Avram Jacobson and directed by Kit Hood and originally aired on January 25th, 1987. And now I have a little summary from TV Guide. So in this episode, Voula lies to her father and attends a school dance against his wishes, while Stephanie shows up drunk.
Parents just don't understand.
Yeah, that pretty much is the full plot of the episode.
The theme of the episode. Although we only actually see one parent.
It's true, although Steph's is mentioned multiple times.
Steph's and Lucy's.
Yes.
And Lucy gets a phone call. But yes, the only present parent is Voula's daddy. All right, so the episode opens at Voula's house. She and her hot dad are sitting in their kitchen while her dad is looking over the school newspaper, the Degrassi Digest, of which Voula is the editor.
Can I just say it absolutely tracks for me that Voula has been in middle school for like 1 week and is the editor of
She's killing it. She's writing speeches, she's editing newspapers.
I get some real, like, strong Capricorn energy from Voula.
Oh.
With maybe a Virgo placement.
She does seem very detail-oriented.
But also I get her as maybe like a Cancer rising. She does seem to have a lot of feelings, a lot of sensitivities.
Very sensitive.
And she likes to share her feelings. Her feelings are as important as anything else she shares.
I promise to not make
in
this
the Degrassi Digest.
I promise to not make this a regular thing where I ask us to speculate on, the birth charts of Degrassi characters, but for some people you just get a real strong vibe.
Yeah. I think you are picking up on those vibes correctly.
I also love that the number on the Degrassi Digest is volume number 1. Because that kind of denotes that they've never, ever had the Degrassi Digest before in previous years. Because usually, even if it's a new school year, it's like number 972 or whatever. So
Voula's killing it. She's even starting a newspaper. She's the editor and founder.
I love that for her.
Yeah. She's doing big things already. All right, so as Hot Dad is flipping through the newspaper, he gets to the last page, which is a flyer for the Degrassi Fall Dance. Voula's kind of like, oh yeah, actually I really wanted to go to that. And her dad immediately says no, because she is too young.
He tells her that life is like a flower, let it unfold. And I just want to know how he wants her to let life unfold without her having any socializing whatsoever.
Yes. Also, do you think that he read that on his little tea packet before he said it? Doesn't it look like, how like sometimes a tea bag has a little message on the on the end of it?
I think he checked CoStar.
As we all know, flowers unfold best at home in the dark alone.
Yes, exactly. He's like, and you, Voula, are more of a cactus. Like,
you're a snake plant. You need absolutely no maintenance whatsoever.
Did you have dances in junior high?
Yeah, I can actually find the dress online somewhere. I got a brand new dress from the Delia's catalog.
Oh, yes.
And I think I wore platform sandals with it.
Oh, of course.
And that was my first catfishing experience, was my 7th grade dance.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I really liked a boy, and we were talking a lot on AOL. And he told me that he would love if I would save him a dance at the upcoming dance. He was in 8th grade and I was in 7th grade. And that was like a really big deal. And at the dance, I heard I'm just assuming it was like Casey and JoJo or something.
You're like, this is the moment.
I'm like, this is my time. And I approached him and I was like, oh hey, you like said you wanted me to save you a dance. And he just like looked me up and down and he was just like, oh, that must have been my girlfriend. She was like playing a practical joke on you.
Oh.
And because his girlfriend had his like AIM account or something, and then she was over in the corner and she was laughing.
Boo.
Is
Yeah.
that a practical joke? Sounds like cyberbullying to me.
Yeah. It was not nice. I feel I recovered very quickly from it. I feel like I rebounded really fast from it. I was just like, oh, okay. And then I just like went and took a picture with my friends.
Also, I like that he's just like, oh, my girlfriend.
Yeah. That's
classic
normal
behavior.
Yeah, that's normal. I just like I never really thought about it until now, but had she done that to other people?
Possibly.
Yeah. So that was my experience. That was like my first, I think, or one of my first middle school dance experiences.
My only experiences with school dances were middle school dances. I did not go to any high school dances except for prom.
I was just gonna say, how dare you?
But yes, no, I went to my fair share of middle school dances, and I don't know why, because I always just sat and there was pizza served, and I think that was my main motivation. Because that's really all I remember doing at them.
We did not have food at Kimball Middle School dances, and I think that was like a huge, just like missed opportunity. Paul, what did you wear?
So I was actually going to get to that also. I have no recollection of what I wore to any of them, but there was a Halloween dance at my middle school, and I decided to go as a court jester.
Are there pictures?
I sincerely doubt it.
It really seems like your mom was not going to let you get out of the house before a dance without taking some commemorative pictures.
Wait, why a court gesture? What were you like watching something at the time, or like what was the inspiration?
I think I just thought it was cool.
Oh, buddy.
Yep.
All right.
As I sit before you today.
Yes, would also like to see a photo of this. I also went to more middle school dances than high school dances. I think I only went to like one homecoming maybe in high school, but in middle school, I think you were more likely to just go with your friends. The first one that I went to, I wore much like, okay, because some of the kids got dressed up for this dance and some of the kids didn't. So the first one that I went to, I wore this like red like polo shirt, but it had like a little skull like logo. And then I had like a choker, like probably like dog collar style choker. And I had my kickwear pants. And I think I also had a red sparkly belt that maybe had 2 rows of studs. But then the next year, I got an actual dress from Hot Topic, which was this like bondage dress, and honestly it was like sick. And I had this little tin like Nightmare Before Christmas like purse. It was like shaped like a coffin, and that was my purse. And so that's what I wore the next year. And I remember my home ec teacher was like, "That is like the perfect dress for you."
I would like to interject that my first and only non-prom high school dance was my freshman year homecoming, and I wore bondage pants from Hot Topic.
Yes.
And if I am
dress them up, dress them down.
Yeah, they go from day to night effortlessly, just like Cosmo told me they would. And I think I too brought like a lunchbox as a purse.
Yes.
And I would also like to say that my shirt was a black tank top. It was like a black kind of like muscle tee that was cut down the sides and then held together with like rows of safety pins.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case everyone didn't already know I was cool. Then there was like no doubt.
There's
did
no
you see the
question.
safety pins?
It was a look.
So, okay, so that's the first interaction we see with Voula and her dad, and we'll see more of them later. So at school, we meet Lucy, who just every outfit is killing it all the time. She is living her best life, and she seems to be good friends with these two twins. I did not catch their name, but I'm assuming everyone referred to them as the twins.
I did in my notes. I do believe their names are Erica and Heather, but I have absolutely no idea which one is which until we get to like season 1 of Degrassi High.
Okay, and very like 80s names there.
Yep.
But no alliteration. Their mom and or dad were like, okay, these are two separate individuals. We will not treat them as one unit. They shall have separate names. Okay. So Lucy invites the twins over to her place before the dance because, as she says, her parents are loose.
I did a count of how many times Lucy called her parents loose in this episode.
Yes.
And the total count for loose was 3. And the total count for broomheads was 2.
Oh.
Lucy is the first person to call someone a broomhead in this episode.
The loose to broomhead ratio is currently in favor of the loose parents.
Yes, it is a 3-to-2 ratio.
Okay, I don't remember at what point Voula joins them, but all the girls are kind of standing and talking, and then Steph walks up, and Voula is still mad. She has not forgotten about the election shenanigans. She cuts another promo on Steph and storms off as she does.
I mean, she's very on brand. I guess, do you guys think that she's being unreasonable? Because I feel like the twins kind of look to each other like, oh, Voula, like, this is silly. Like, do you guys think that Voula is holding a grudge? Do you think that she is being reasonable in her, like, I don't really know how much time is supposed to have passed between episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, we're still like very aware of like the presidential election results, like where like that comes up in this episode. Yeah, it doesn't seem like she's being unreasonable. I'm not sure what that look was about, really. I think they were just like, ooh, this is some juicy shit.
Yes, I think it was juicy, hot goss. But also there has been no apology from Steph to Voula. So I think at this point, Voula is still justified in being angry. Steph sort of walks up like, okay, like, let's just, like, move on from what happened. But Voula is more like, we need to have a conversation first. Except instead of actually expressing that, she storms off, which is her way of saying, no, it's not over. We're still fighting.
I mean, in the previous episode, Stephanie did say, like, look, I'm sorry, okay, or something like that. But she didn't really... she didn't give her, like, an actual apology. She was just like, guys like that kind of stuff, you know, when you thank them. And so yes. she managed to justify what she'd done. So she didn't really, you know, she didn't actually take Voula into consideration with her.
There's no accountability in her apology.
Exactly.
All right, so next we head to the girls' bathroom, where Stephanie is doing her usual wardrobe change before school starts. And Lucy's in the bathroom this time, and she asks Stephanie why she doesn't just change at home. And Stephanie says, my mom would ground me for life or longer. Lucy's parents, as we know, are loose, and they kind of let her do whatever. Lucy calls parents fascists, but notes that her own parents let her go where she wants and dress how she wants.
She also refers to the entire city of Toronto as a hick town.
Yeah, so I looked this up, by the way. Toronto is the most populous city in Canada. It is the fourth most populous city in North America. And the Greater Toronto Area has a population of 6.4 million people. So, just a hick town.
Well,
Lucy's got high standards, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
they're really not doing enough for Lucy here.
Which,
Lucy
like,
really
I can
needs
relate.
Toronto to do better.
I can relate.
I don't know.
I mean,
feel
that's
like I'd be
it's how
pretty
we all
stoked.
feel about where we live, right? When we're growing up.
I mean, later Lucy references that they've moved there from Manhattan. So I guess like this is just sort of like the first in a legacy of like Degrassi students who have moved to Toronto from New York and are not happy about it.
Not impressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
I mean,
what else do
be
you
happy
want?
about that move?
It's a major city and now you have healthcare. Like what do
Yeah.
you want?
But I don't think the teens are thinking about their health care. But it's true. I'm sure that's what her parents were thinking.
And isn't that part of the problem, really?
Yeah, the teens need to spend more time thinking about their health care. So while they're kind of talking in the bathroom, Steph asks if Lucy has ever asked a boy out.
Lucy? Yeah? Have you ever asked a boy out? Sure, lots of times. I mean, they don't laugh or anything? Of course not. Please, Stephanie. This is the 80s.
Yeah, I really love Lucy's response to this. Like it's just so nonchalant. Like of course.
Yes.
Like I wasn't asking boys out in middle school. I wasn't asking anybody out. I just was like asking my friends if they wanted to hang out and watch TV, which is actually pretty much what I do now. So,
a much easier ask.
Yes, exactly.
But this is also, so, I mean, I guess we don't really know whether Lucy has actually asked boys out before or not. This may be the first time, like we see later in the episode, they're all sort of asking each other, have you done this before? Have you done this before? And then sometimes they're sort of like lying in response to seem cool to the other person. So maybe Lucy has asked boys out. We haven't seen her with any boys. But it could also just be her sort of being like, yeah, of course I've done that. And we also see like, Steph is wanting to be more mature, but it's still very new to her. So she's sort of acting the part without actually having those experiences yet. She's working on it.
I think there's also an element, they don't really acknowledge that Lucy is new to the school, but obviously she is if she's talking about, her where she lived previously. So there's also probably an element of really wanting to fit in pretty quickly in a new school and just being like, yeah, of course I've done that.
Right. All right. So we leave the bathroom and Joey finds Wheels in the hall and he asks if he has a date for the dance yet. And Joey says that he's taking Steph, but he hasn't actually asked her. And meanwhile, Steph is telling her friends how sexy Wheels is. And we have our first Degrassi love triangle.
I also took account. Wheels is referred to as sexy twice in this episode. I just wanted to.
Sexy.
I don't think I've ever referred to anyone as sexy.
Yeah, I think we would probably say like hot. If we were at this age, I don't think we would describe someone as sexy.
No, I mean sexy implies, sex, and my like pubescent brain couldn't have handled that.
I mean, it could be part of the whole sort of maturity thing. Maybe she thinks that's a more mature way to sort of talk about somebody that you're interested in. And actually, I, thinking about it now, so Joey and Wheels are sort of doing the same thing of like, are you going to the dance? Have you asked someone? Do you have a date? So everyone's sort of checking in with their friends and like kind of taking notes on like where they are and what they're doing, in terms of, I don't know, sexiness. I don't know.
In terms of sexiness.
So we get to class. And Voula would like to speak to the class. She tells everyone that they'll be sponsoring a foster child, but that they need to raise some money. And if we can just pause here, so
I have.
I'm assuming by foster child, they mean they're sponsoring a child.
Okay, so I have several questions followed by several facts.
Okay.
My first of all, I desperately want more information on what sponsoring a foster child means. I'm interested in where the money goes specifically, because obviously, like, foster children are fostered through families who get government stipends. So I don't really know what them sponsoring a foster child means. And is the entire junior high sponsoring one single domestic foster child in Canada? So and also, did they really decide to do this and then not have any plans for how to
Pay for it.
raise the money? So just a couple of facts, which is that just when thinking about like one middle school sponsoring one child, there are 63,000 children in foster care in Canada right now. 30,000 are eligible for adoption, and every year only 2,000 are adopted, which I thought was like a very interesting. I basically went looking for, like, because later on in the episode they talk about, I think they call it like the Foster Children Association or something. So I went looking for that to see if that actually existed, because I felt like if that was a resource that really existed, Degrassi would probably spotlight it, but there isn't any such organization. It seems like there are several organizations that kind of, like multiple fostering organizations that fall under one umbrella and things like that. But yeah, they really, I don't understand this plan.
So my impression, just from the episode and not having any additional facts, was that, so in the way that we would think of like sponsoring a child, like in the 90s, how it would be like, for $1 a day, you can sponsor, a child in some like developing nation. So I think that it's that sort of thing, because they even have a poster at the dance that sort of looks like it's maybe a child who is not in Canada. We're not sure. But so I think they sort of just mean they're sponsoring with some kind. Also, they come up with only one idea to sponsor the child.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're going to do this. And then, very, very swiftly, Lucy says, oh, well, why can't the dance be a benefit for it?
Yes,
we'll charge everyone $1.
Exactly. She's like, everyone's talking about this dance. Let's turn it into a fundraiser, charge everyone $1 to attend. Everyone is into this suggestion. She's like, well, let's ask the president. Steph is sitting right there, and Steph is actually pretty chill president. She's just like, yeah, okay, to like everything they suggest.
Well, I think part of the problem is, and why there's not enough ideas, is Stephanie's just sitting there oogling boys while they're trying to have productivity conversations about what they can do. She's over here staring at wheels and, like, I don't know, giving them like flirty finger waves or something.
She definitely like, when she agrees to do it, she definitely sounds like she has not been listening at all. She's just like, oh,
absolutely
yeah, okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think because Lucy also says they can, an hour later, she says they can present the check. So basically they're going to raise all the money and then present the check at the dance.
$1 is really, I know it's 1987, but just not that much to charge for something like this. Considering how many people you actually see at the dance, they can't have raised more than like $35.
Well, maybe it's $1 suggested donation, and then maybe, a couple kids threw in a little bit more.
They did not. They're in 7th grade.
Very optimistic.
They're like, I'm saving this to buy a bag of Doritos on the way home.
Joey snuck into this dance. Like, he did not pay $1.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's why he has such a grand entrance, to distract from the fact that he is not donating $1 to this dance.
That's so
we
jelly.
sort of.
I love that we've just decided.
That's
it seems pretty clear.
It's clear that's what happened. So we kind of fast forward through the rest of the school day, and then it's after school. Lucy and Voula are talking on the front steps, And yes, and this is when Lucy tells her that she should present the check at the dance, since the whole fostering a child thing was her idea. Voula starts to lie, saying that Steph should do it because she's the president, but then she kind of stops herself and she admits the truth that she already asked her dad if she could go to the dance and he said no. So Lucy tells her that she needs to tell her parents what's up and like demand her rights.
Yeah, I like Lucy giving almost like reverse parenting advice. You know, she's like,
Yes.
they'll never respect you.
Yes,
Tighten
and
the
she's
leash.
like, you need to explain to your parents. Like, you need to tell them what's going on, like, not the other way around. And, like, while doing all of this, like, Lucy starts putting on her lipstick, and Voula asks if she can try some. So, like, Lucy in this moment is very much like the cool friend spreading anti-fascism and encouraging children to rise up against their parents, wear lipstick, and demand their rights.
I'm hugely on Team Lucy, just right from the start. And it's also
I disagree with none of it.
Yeah, it's just like, also Voula is kind of, we're seeing once again like being pulled into like the gravitational pull of someone with like maybe a bit more social clout, maybe someone who can provide a little more guidance, someone with, you know, who's very confident. But I think maybe she sees from Lucy that Lucy, you know, Lucy's encouraging her to step out of her comfort zone a little bit, to speak up for herself. So maybe she also recognizes that Lucy's not going to put her in a similar uncomfortable position that Steph did.
Right, it's not all about Lucy. Like,
Exactly.
Lucy is actually listening to Voula's, like, problem. And initially Voula's sort of like, well, my parents are nice too. You know, she sort of is a little bit defensive. But then she starts to see that, like, oh, like, Lucy's not insulting my parents or, you know, coming at me. She's trying to, like, help me to, like, advocate for myself. So it's, like, two different mature friends, right? Like, Steph is kind of maturing in one way. Lucy's kind of a mature friend in another way. And Voula's sort of figuring out, like, where she kind of fits on this, like, spectrum.
Yeah, and I think, and you know, the scene sort of ends with Voula trying Lucy's lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of like, oh, okay, I can do this too.
Right, like she's trying on, like, Lucy's attitude.
Yeah.
And in the next scene, we'll see how that goes for her.
Daddy don't like that.
So we are back at Voula's house. Once again, she's, like, cooking dinner while her father's just, like, sitting at the table hanging out. She's about to ask again if she can go to the dance when her dad notices that she's wearing lipstick and immediately tells her to take it off because she's just a little girl.
Can I also interject here that it is almost no difference between her natural lip shade and this lipstick? Like,
yeah,
her dad notices.
I forgot about the lipstick too. I was like,
right? Like, it does not look like she's wearing any lipstick at all, which, you know, calm down, Dad.
Calm down, Daddy.
See?
You guys are just going to keep calling him Daddy.
Absolutely.
Well, she actually refers to him as Papa, but I prefer Daddy.
Papa don't preach.
Oh, and also I just wanted to see, what do y'all think about, like, we know that she has both parents, but we only see her father. And she's constantly, like, in this sort of domestic role at home. Like, she's always, like, kind of wearing an apron. She's at the counter. I don't know if she's making dinner or doing dishes or what, but the roles between them are almost more like old school husband and wife. You know, like, the husband is sitting there at the table waiting for his dinner while the wife prepares it, which might just sort of be not necessarily those domestic roles, but that sort of, like, you're expected to cook and clean and, like, do all these sorts of things, and he's telling her, and this is what boys are like. He doesn't want her to go to the dance because boys only have one thing on their mind. So he's really, like, reinforcing these gender norms. And so we see them being challenged kind of at school, but in her home life, it seems like very traditional roles for everybody. Like, whatever her dad says goes.
Yeah, it has a bit of an air of the sort of Gilmore Girls, Mrs. Kim vibe. Like for the first season, Lane Kim always talks about my parents, my parents, my parents, but you only ever see Mrs. Kim. And at some point, they drop that she has parents and just focus on Mrs. Kim. But they're, Mrs. Kim is also very strict, and I get a very similar vibe here, where we've got one parent who's sort of calling the shots, and this other parent is noticeably absent from these scenes. And Voula is in this very strange domestic caretaking role where she is almost acting as like a wife or something similar to her dad, and that's inappropriate.
Woof.
And I think there's also some first generation versus immigrant parent conflicts starting to brew here, where to her it doesn't seem like anyone else at school, like anyone else's parents are not allowing them to go to this, what is, by the way, a very wholesome dance. Like her dad says, like, oh, there will be boys there, they have one thing on their mind. At the dance, Voula is slow dancing with Arthur.
I know. Which, by the way,
and I highly doubt that Arthur has sex on his mind.
I'm sure
we can't read his thoughts, but
but I don't know. The other thing is, like, Voula. I mean, Voula's clearly not going there because she wants a boyfriend. Like, she just wants to go and see her friends and and just engage in this very normal adolescent activity. And
her dad is sexualizing the activity. It's not inherently sexual.
Exactly.
Okay, so she's having this kind of... Oh, right. Okay, so before she can even ask again, her dad cuts her off, tells her to take off the lipstick. So then she changes her mind about asking about the dance, and instead she lies, saying that there's a meeting at school on Saturday that she'd like to attend. This is a meeting in the evening, which sounds a little suspicious to her dad, but she just says, that's when everyone was available.
She also says it's a meeting to do with the foster child.
Yes.
And she also says they're meeting in the evening so that everyone can spend the day with their families and doing homework.
That's right.
And I'm just like, wow, she really knows exactly which levers and buttons to, like, pull and
she
push.
knows what he wants to hear. Because what teenager is spending the weekend with their family?
Never.
But I mean, classic teen lie. Like, she didn't really lie. They are people that will be meeting up with one another, and at some point the foster child will be discussed. I see no lie.
It's at
school. My notes say, once again, I'm Team Voula here. The dance is sort of like a meeting. You meet people at it. Which is like,
no lie.
Yes. Teens, take note. The best lies have some version of the truth within them.
I think that's a good lesson for all of us to learn.
Yeah.
So her dad totally buys it. He agrees that she can go to the dance, but he says that she must be home by 9:30 p.m.
This is the real Chekhov's gun in the episode, because it's like they make sure to just like point that out real quick, very early in the episode, and you just know it's coming back to fire.
I just really feel like 9:30 is kind of reasonable. Why would some meeting intended for even if he's believing that it's a meeting, why would a meeting intended for children go past 9? And then even with the real version of the truth that it's a school dance, what middle school dance was going past 9 o'clock? Is that?
Yeah, I think they go till 9.
So strange.
And this is, I think that kids were a little bit more free range in the 80s. But I did think, like, walking home alone past, like, 9:30 does seem like kind of sketch.
Yeah. I don't even like to take my dog for a walk after it gets dark. Like, I'm very aware of, murder.
But I do agree with your your Chekhov's gun assessment that he needed to set some sort of storyline boundary so that he could then roll up and be mad. And if he were to say you need to be home by 8:30 instead of 9:30,
That would have been too
that's
early.
weird. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird. Too
Yeah,
weird.
9:30 actually seems like a pretty reasonable time that he's given her.
Yeah,
Yes.
they
And
gave
she
us
still can't manage.
She still can't manage. Voula.
So I'm like, girl, if you're gonna lie, you've got to get home.
Gotta keep it together.
Yeah, if you're gonna lie, you have to do it the right way.
Another lesson for all
the,
of us.
the lie got you out, but then if you want to maintain the freedom to lie about where you're going in the future, you still have to make it home by curfew.
Look, there's responsibility that needs to be taken when you're a liar.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. So back at school, I'm assuming this is the next day. Back at school, Joey is about to ask Steph to the dance, but she stops him and says, "Actually, can I talk to Wheels real quick?" And then she's clearly asking him to the dance, and Joey is a mad boy and storms off.
Okay, I wanted to ask you guys 2 questions. Number 1, do you think that Wheels sucks for not talking about it with Joey at all and just accepting, or do you think that it's okay because Joey hadn't asked her? And then my follow-up question is, did this ever happen to you? Did you ever like someone and they wanted to ask out your friend instead?
Well, as someone who only ever hung out with other dorks and losers, it definitely never happened to me. But I don't know. I think Wheels it's fair game. I don't think Wheels owes anything to Joey on that. No.
I agree, because Steph hasn't actually expressed any interest in Joey. He's just like interested in her. He doesn't like have any kind of ownership over Steph, so like I think she's totally free to ask Wheels and he's free to like just accept.
Yeah, they're not like hanging out.
And what's he gonna be like? Oh, hold on, let me go check with Joey first.
I don't know. I kept having this thought of like, if the gender roles in this were reversed.
Yeah. There'd be more of an expectation, yeah.
Yeah, that like, oh, this is girl code. You don't say yes to the guy your friend likes. And I wondered if young guys sort of have a similar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, because Joey kind of asks like, Wheels is sort of like ambivalent about Steph, but Joey says he thinks she's fabulous. He's actually kind of sweet in this moment. He's been like kind of rude leading up to this, but then he's talking about like how great he thinks Steph is when he's like getting ready to like ask her to the dance. So it is a little bit of like a vulnerable moment for him, and so maybe Wheels is like a little bit wrong for that, but I don't think it's like I don't like hold it against him that he just reacted in the moment and didn't like think about it.
Feels like a little cutthroat relationship to me, like with these two. Like I don't think Joey would have Wheels's back in a similar situation. And
no, and later on at the dance he thinks that he's been stood up.
Yeah,
and he kind of makes fun of him.
Yeah, he celebrates that. Yeah, totally. I definitely agree. And I do think that, Joey kind of, kvelling about how much he likes Steph in this moment, it really kind of gives us our first sort of like vulnerable look at Joey and like the real Joey, and not the bravado of like Joey Jeremiah Esquire. You know what I mean? Like he's he just like really likes this girl and he thinks she's amazing. But then, once more people are around, he feels like he has to put on this persona.
Right.
And Wheels is just kind of like, whatever, man. I'm just gonna hang out in my dad
He's like
outfit.
a cute girl. Yeah, he just my dad up. He's like, a cute girl asked me to a dance. Like, sounds great. Well, and maybe that's why Joey is attracted to Steph. They both sort of are presenting this image that maybe is not necessarily who they are.
Totally. And I'm sure she likes Wheels because he just seems like very authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and I guess he has also expressed interest in her. He was the one who started the Kisses for Votes initiative in the previous episode.
And did tell her to take it all off. So yes. I guess he is not ambivalent. Also, I would like to say that in this scene, Stephanie's outfit is something. She's got this
yes. Okay. Yes, please
this
describe the
shirt
outfit.
that has cars printed on it, and it's got a popped collar, and then just a giant kind of middle school art teacher chunky necklace.
No sleeves.
No sleeves.
Big old
it's a
belt
look.
buckle.
It is a real look.
Loved it and supported.
I love all her looks. They're incredible.
Very good. Yeah. So this episode actually has a lot of cutting back and forth between their houses. So next, the twins show up to Lucy's house, and they've brought Stephanie, but before they enter, they're like, hey, is it cool if Stephanie comes? Like, she needs somewhere to change. But she's standing right there. Like, they already brought her over.
Supposed to say to this?
So Lucy's just like, yeah, okay, sure. And we already know that Lucy is not super into Steph. Like, I think LD, you said she already called her broomhead when she was talking with Voula earlier. She's kind of more friends with Voula at this point than she is with Steph. But of course she says, yeah, of course, she's cool. She's not gonna like not let this girl hang out with them.
Lucy's not a mean girl. I like that she's she's got her wits about her. She's got her allegiances, but she's not gonna intentionally leave anybody out or be cruel.
She's smooth.
Right.
She knows how to operate social situations.
And I don't know how realistic this is to junior high, but it seems like everyone is kind of friends with everybody. Even later when Voula shows up to the dance, Caitlin and someone else are like sitting at a table and they're like, oh, Voula, like come over and sit with us. So it seems like everyone is sort of friends with everyone at this point.
That was not my middle school experience. But
no,
it's
that's what I mean. I don't know that it's entirely realistic, but it is what's being presented to us.
We had popular kids from like day one, and it was very clear who the nerds were.
Yes, and they were not being, and I mean it would have been Voula, right?
I mean, I don't know. I can't tell because she does seem to have like a pretty solid sort of foundation of other girlfriends, and usually like girls who traveled together in packs sort of in middle school. They weren't necessarily unpopular, but they weren't super popular. Like she's got her own pals. Right. I don't know that she's a nerd. I would definitely class Susie, the vice president. I think she's kind of a nerd. Arthur and Nick are nerds.
Yep.
Right.
And we haven't really met Kathleen yet, but I think Kathleen's a nerd.
Okay. And I guess if Voula had been allowed to attend the dance, Lucy probably would have invited her over too, which would have been interesting too if the twins had still showed up, with Steph. But Voula's probably at home making dinner for her dad right now while the girls are hanging out at Lucy's. This is when Lucy mentions that her family used to have a loft in Manhattan, so this is probably why she's cooler than everyone around her.
And she also refers to her very large, beautiful home as this dump.
Yeah.
And also the twins walk in and immediately go, wow, your parents must be loaded.
Those twins are just telling it how it is.
They seem to just say whatever comes to their mind.
to their collective mind.
Their collective mind.
They're like the Borg. They share one mind.
I'm sorry. They're very separate Heather and Erica minds.
Yes.
Also, I would like to call attention to Lucy's, what I have put in my notes here as Flintstones chic outfit.
Oh yeah, the other girls already have their dance outfits. The twins are just sort of wearing whatever they wore to school that day, it looks like. But yeah, Lucy has like the Flintstone cut around the edge, like the bottom of her sweater.
And then also leopard leggings.
Oh yeah.
I really love that the twins' like everyday outfits are what Steph wears as her decoy outfits.
Yes.
To like trick her mom. But like the best part about it is that they all look dope.
Oh,
they still
everyone
all
looks
great.
amazing. I'm loving the different like cuts. Like I appreciate the variety in dance wear.
Yeah, I love that like no one's ever making fun of how anyone's dressing. They're just kind of like all doing their own thing, which is very cool.
Everyone is supporting everyone. Even Steph does not get shamed for her outfit, which I also enjoy. But we haven't, I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Oh yeah, I like her dance outfit.
Yes. So first we have to go back to school, where the other kids start to arrive to the dance, which has now been rebranded as Degrassi's benefit dance to support a foster child. And also
so that was my utilitarian prop of the week.
Yes.
Like it was just like it's doing exactly what it says on the box, man. It's just a benefit for a foster child. That's it. It is a dance.
It is also referred to as a Degrassi Junior High benefit dance.
It
so,
has,
it's a little bit inconsistent in the branding here, but yes, we have clearly there's a full committee like working on these posters kind of describing the dance as they see fit.
It just has super like The Office, it is your birthday banner vibes.
Yes, just
for
like
me.
stating facts.
Yeah.
They did throw double exclamation points on the end of it though.
That's true. That's how you know it's exciting.
So yeah, so we keep going back and forth from the dance to Lucy's house where the girls are still hanging out. So as the girls are just sort of sitting around talking, they notice Lucy's parents' liquor, and one of the twins says, "Too bad we can't get splashed." But Lucy reminds everyone that her parents are loose and they get to drinking. Except for Lucy. I will note, Lucy does not drink at all in this episode.
Lucy is so cool.
So
She's just kind of like live and let live. She's like, if y'all want to drink, do your thing. I'm not going to though.
Yeah,
she
not
doesn't
judgmental.
even say anything. She just doesn't join in.
I like that. Like it wasn't a big like dare campaign video. Like it wasn't like just say no. It was just kind of like
right.
Lucy's going to abstain.
Yes. So then we go back to the dance where we see that DJ Radich is spinning records. He brought his whole record collection.
Now, he brought his entire record collection, but I do want to note the 2 times that we have dipped into the dance, he is playing 2 different songs by the same band that I researched as being called W&L Heartbeats Unlimited.
Oh.
Yes, so first we heard the song Dancing on the Screen, and then where we're at now, he is now playing the song featuring Wendy Watson, We Can Start Again.
Can we find either of those?
Oh, they're on Spotify.
Oh, thank God.
There is no information on the internet about this band, aside from the fact that they're on Spotify.
Yes, I tried to Google them, and all it brought up for me was stuff about like irregular heartbeats and what to do if you have like cardiomyopathy, and it was like the NHS like website. And I was like, oh, this isn't right, but also this is useful. Thank you.
Yeah, so like Radich is like in on some kind of like really deep cut band, but it is apparently the only band that he knows.
So back at Lucy's, Steph debuts her dance outfit, which is hot pink leggings in electric blue top and then like a silver kind of unbuttoned button down over it.
I love it.
And all the girls are into it. Everyone kind of like cheers for her.
It's got neon, it's got metallics, it's got everything that I desire from a dynamic dance outfit.
Oh, and earlier when Steph was at home, we saw her shoving the silver top into her bag. So even for the dance, she was doing her usual leaving in one outfit and then changing into another.
Sometimes it's got to be like that, man.
So the girls are, I think the twins are already drinking maybe. And so Steph is kind of like, she's actually surprised. She's kind of like, oh, are you guys drinking? Like, you've been drunk before? And the twins say that they got drunk once at their cousin's. And they're kind of like, Steph, have you been drunk? And she's like, oh yeah, plenty of times. So this is kind of what I was referring to before, where they're sort of like seeing what other people have done and then like kind of lying to be like, oh yeah, me too. But these are like new experiences for all of them.
This like middle school drinking experience just does not really ring true for me. I mean, first of all, there's no Mike's Hard Lemonade. Which I think, or like Bartles and James, Boone's Farm. I don't know. I didn't fucking drink in middle school, so I think the first thing I ever like had a drink of was Hooch, the delightful lemon drink, because my brother had like left it in the garage, and I was like, ooh, and then I was like, much like when I tried smoking, I was like, oh, this tastes bad, and that was like the only time I tried smoking. But yeah, did you guys drink in middle school?
Absolutely not.
In middle school, no.
Absolutely
like
not.
These kids get up to a lot.
No judgment, but I was not doing anything in middle school, so I have no context for this.
Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe possibly in 8th grade, but I feel like that was more 9th grade vibes for me. But I actually had an experience extremely similar to Steph's, where I was living in Michigan, and there was this girl named Alex who had just moved to like this kind of rural like Michigan town from California. So she was obviously cooler than everyone else, and had a mom who is like, I'm your mom and also your friend, who would like kind of let kids hang out at her house and like do whatever. So
very Amy Poehler and Mean Girls.
Yes. I have this very specific experience of like all hanging out in her basement. And much like Steph, I was drinking a large glass of Kahlua.
Ooh.
And I stood up to go to the bathroom and just had this like whoosh of like, oh, this is what being drunk feels like.
Did you throw up?
I did not throw up. And we were kind of just like hanging out. I think we were like hanging out listening to like the Virgin Suicide soundtrack.
This sounds great.
So it was kind of just like a chill hang. Honestly, I'm not mad at it.
But like the summer between 8th grade and then starting high school, I started listening to a lot of Minor Threat. So then I was straight edge in high school. I didn't have these experiences. I was playing a lot of Mario Kart.
Yeah, I was boring enough that once I got to high school, I realized I was able to just roll that over into straight edge culture. So I just sort of assimilated into that. But mostly I was just boring. I was just really boring and not interested in a good time.
You were an undercover square.
Yes.
Like masquerading as like a straight edge punk kid.
Yeah.
I actually think that might be sort of how I landed too, because I did go to college and I drank for a few years in college, but really like I don't drink as like an adult human person.
My first drink was a PBR. So I have attained true hipster status. It just took me like 20 years to get there.
Okay, that's great. My first weekend at college, I attended. My friend was on the newspaper, and she was invited to, and I did not call it this. The person hosting it did, a soiree, and she brought me with her as her Voula, if you will. And they were serving wine, and I didn't want to be a baby because I was still 7. Baby. I didn't want to be a stupid baby. I graduated high school a year early, so I was still 17. And I was a virgin, so I was just like, okay, I better drink some wine. And And I remember I sat down and I put my purse down, or my bag or whatever. I don't think I was ever a purse person. And my postal service CD fell out of my bag, and this guy was like, "Oh." He like thought that I like did that on purpose. Was like, "Oh, you think you're like really cool showing us all you listen to the postal service?" And then I remember I got kind of drunk on my like 2 glasses of wine at this soiree and walked back to my dorm. And I just like sat down on the couch in the lobby of my dorm and was just like, "Oh, I don't like this."
I believe I had much different experiences than either of you, and we will save those for another time.
Paul and I are nerds.
I was much more of a probably Steph in this scenario. I was definitely not the kid initiating these sorts of activities. I wasn't going along with everything, but I was a little bit more like, yeah, let's see how this goes.
I really respect that.
Nice.
I was very worried, just like about everything.
Yeah.
So I think like I was too busy being worried.
I don't know. I think my worry kind of increased the older that I got. I was maybe less concerned at this point.
You were just like not worried about your Kahlua intake.
No, I was not worried about my Kahlua intake, which it does sort of taste like a delicious milkshake.
Yeah,
not that anyone
great.
underage should be consuming such beverages. But the girls sort of encourage Steph to drink. Also, I do have to say, I think that they would be much more drunk than they end up being, because they are just like drinking all kinds of different liquor. They're trying like a little bit of everything, and then Steph literally chugs a glass of what I'm assuming is Kahlua, what looks like Kahlua.
I assume
and then after
Bailey's.
This, yeah, maybe like Bailey's Irish Cream. Yes, something along those lines. Yeah. And then the girls head off to the dance, and we get like what I think is just a truly beautiful and authentic scene of drunk girls walking together, which is that they're all like kind of singing, being loud, laughing hysterically, stumbling around as they like approach the dance.
From what I could make out from them singing together, it sounded like they were singing what I would assume would be the school song.
I think so, yeah.
Which I think happens on TV a lot. I've already referenced Gilmore Girls, but, you know, in season, I think 4 of Gilmore Girls, when Dean has a bachelor party, they all, like, stumble into the diner singing the school song, drunk. And I always wonder if they do that for, like, royalties purposes. Like, they can't really get their hands on a song that everyone would know.
Right.
That's watching, and so they go for something that everyone in the Degrassi universe would know, which kind of, for me, brings up the question, did you actually know your school's song? Because I didn't.
In high school, I was in the marching band, so I did know the melody to my school song. Hail to the varsity, long way da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, wow, I don't have to keep going, but I could.
I would love that, because obviously we had the same school song because we went to the same high school.
Right.
And I have absolutely no idea what it was.
I was not aware of my school having a school song. Any of my schools. I attended many schools and none of them had a song.
How many high schools did you attend?
I attended 2 high schools.
2 high schools. And how many middle schools?
2 middle schools.
Oh.
I moved in middle school and high school.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm.
So the girls finally show up to the dance just in time for the Degrassi Crazy Dance. Woo! Ooh. The moment everyone's been waiting for.
Very problematic. Mr. Radich says they'll be judging who is the most, and I quote, demented Degrassi dancer.
He just wanted that alliteration so bad.
He did, but you would not get that.
But at what cost?
Oof.
Does not hold up.
Not at all.
So Steph spots Wheels and grabs him. They start dancing before she very quickly realizes that she's gonna hurl and runs off to the girls' bathroom. Her friends follow her and remind her that she still has to present the check for the foster child, but she says that she can't do it and that someone else will have to do it.
So, as we've kind of discussed a couple of times, like, because I've watched so many teen shows, I was very conditioned to think that Steph was going to puke all over Wheels.
Yes.
And I loved that they didn't go there.
Yeah.
I love that they
Yes.
just, you know what I mean? Like, because I've personally, like, I've thrown up a lot in my life, and like most of the time I have not done it like in an inappropriate place. And so I feel like, but on teen shows, they always throw up like on somebody.
On somebody.
Right. And she's embarrassed enough that she just had to run out of the dance, and her friends all know that she threw up. Like, she's still facing consequences, but yeah, I think that they feel pretty realistic to like
Yeah.
what's happened here. Nobody was like drinking and driving to the dance. You know, they just kind of like walked over. They're walking home later. Yeah, she has to run off, but she makes it to the bathroom. Like, I think it's all like, you know, she's regretting her choices, but she doesn't have to be like publicly humiliated, where it seems like that's usually where they go on like
Yeah.
more like current teen dramas.
Yeah, her comeuppance was merely that she, you know, felt embarrassed by the fact that she had to run off.
Right, and she can't do, so this is like one of the first major responsibilities of her presidency is presenting this check. She was practicing at home earlier in the mirror, so she was like prepared to do this, and now she's just like, there's no way I can do it. So Lucy must have remembered seeing Voula actually show up to the dance, because she goes off to find her. And so here we find Voula, whatever. Voula is slow dancing with Arthur, but she realizes that it's past her curfew, and so she starts to like gather her things to get ready to leave. But Lucy intercepts her and, you know, kind of is like, no, like, you have to come to the bathroom. Voula's kind of like, I'm already late. It's past my curfew, so it's already past 9:30. Which at this point, it's like, Voula, it's too late. Like, you've already blown it. Like, you might as well. Just might as well stay at this point.
I was sort of like, man, her friends know that her parents are strict. Like, surely all she has to say is, guys, it's past my curfew. I have to go. Like, I knew a lot of people whose parents were pretty strict, and once that sort of sentence was uttered, it was just sort of respected.
Yeah.
I think it's very strange that they're just like, you have to do it. It's like, she doesn't have to do it. Like,
no.
She's a behind the scenes person. She's the editor, you know what I mean? She's not the face of the class. And I'm just thinking, like,
the whole thing was her idea.
Whatever, Lucy's an extrovert. She should do it.
I was kind of like, it's just presenting a check. Why can't Lucy do it?
I know. I mean, it's obviously just to set up this conflict with her dad, but also, like, I kept thinking, like, well, if she leaves now and her dad shows up, he's gonna walk in and he's not gonna see Voula there. So then by the time he gets home, maybe she'll be home and he won't ever know that she went to the dance.
Right. I wondered if he would have intercepted her if she were walking home. That's what I meant. Like, I felt like it was already too late. Like, he was probably already headed to the dance.
Definitely.
To pick her up, but maybe he would have like seen her walking home or something, and she could have gotten away with it.
You just know he peeled out of that driveway at like 9:27.
Well, do you think he sat in the dark first?
Obviously. Obviously, at the kitchen table waiting for Voula to come home.
Did your parents ever wait for? Yeah.
Those
dishes aren't gonna do themselves, Voula.
My parents did not wait for me. My parents did not know where I was most of the time. I wasn't doing anything interesting, so maybe it was just sort of like fine. But
whatever I was doing, I always made it home by curfew.
Yeah, I did too. This is, or I called. You know what I mean? This is the thing, is like my mom wasn't strict. She was pretty happy for me to kind of do what I was going to do because she knew, I think, that I wasn't doing anything untoward. I was a nerd.
So Lucy finds Voula, brings her into the bathroom to see Steph, and Steph kind of convinces her to present the check. So Voula gets up there and just on the spot gives like a very good speech, unprompted.
Which her dad sees. Her dad sees the whole speech. Very professional.
He's kind of walking around looking for her, and then obviously spots her once she's, up at the podium, like giving the speech.
The way that he walks like very menacingly up to the podium, and the way that the camera is over his shoulder as he's approaching her was very like Criminal Minds, like he was about to murder her. Like it was such a strange choice.
I mean, they definitely conveyed that he was really pissed.
Yeah.
Inexplicably.
Yeah, I have in my notes, it's pretty weird that Voula's dad hasn't changed his mind after seeing her give her speech.
Right, because he didn't even find her, dancing. Well, what if he had found her dancing like 2 feet apart with Arthur? Who knows what would have happened then? But he doesn't even see her dancing. He only sees her giving this speech, presenting this check for the foster child, like she said. But yes, Hot Dad has transformed into Mad Dad in this moment. Very, very menacing. I actually questioned whether I still thought he was hot or not because the lighting was different. Everything was like different about him. But the mustache was still there. So
it feels like a package deal. I think you don't get Hot Dad in this scenario without Mad Dad. Yeah,
it's possibly true.
I would actually really like to track hot Degrassi parents.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think we get very many of them. I think most of the parents on Degrassi, unlike other teen dramas, parents just look like parents.
Mm-hmm. They're not former teen stars themselves necessarily. Former teen heartthrobs. Sorry, I'm thinking about on Riverdale. Yeah, there's lots of.
Or like on the OC, because Sandy Cohen's eyebrows are their own character. They're my favorite cast member of the OC. Yeah.
Dad. I mean, those eyebrows compared to Voula's dad's mustache, I mean, that's a pretty good like competition in terms of hottest facial hair.
We should do a poll.
Yes. We can't decide it amongst ourselves. We'll need to put this one out there for everyone else.
Who is hotter, Voula's dad or Sandy Cohen? Does Voula even have a last name yet? Like, we're supposed to assume she's Greek, but I don't know.
So actually, I also thought that. I was looking into her on the internet, and their last name. Yeah, that sounded creepier than it was supposed to. But
no, I love it.
Their family name definitely sounded very Greek, but in the credits they thanked the like Ukrainian like council or like some sort of Ukrainian thing, which is where I think they must have gotten the set designs for their house. It led me to believe that they could possibly be Ukrainian somehow.
Could that be where they are fostering a child? Or are they fostering a child domestically?
Plus, Voula's dad did not sound Greek to me. But
he doesn't sound Ukrainian to me. He just kind of sounds like a dad. I don't know, like a dad with, a non-native English speaking accent, and that's like it. Yeah. What is Voula's last name supposed to be?
Giannis, Grivogiannis.
Okay, that's Greek.
It seems Greek.
Perhaps we will find out in future episodes. So Mad Dad very menacingly approaches the podium while Voula is giving her speech, and then as soon as she's done, he grabs her elbow and kind of drags her out of the dance. He's very upset that she lied, but she's sort of explaining that she had to because he treats her like a baby. So she tried to just talk to him, he wouldn't listen, so that was why she lied to him.
A stupid baby.
She does not say stupid baby,
baby.
but yes, it's implied.
But it's how she feels. She's internalized the stupid babiness.
And they don't really resolve anything. They just sort of disagree.
Yep. It's a pretty, like, for an episode where several things happen, it's a very uneventful episode.
Yes. And I kind of wonder, it makes me wonder, like, what Voula's mom thinks about all of this. Because we see that her and her dad are just totally, like, disagreeing. And we don't really get any input from, you know, what her mom... They talk about her parents, so she has, like, 2 parents, but they don't really specifically mention what her mom is thinking about all of this.
Yeah, he only says, your mom didn't go to a dance till she was 16.
Until she was 16, yeah. Which also, like, maybe there wasn't an opportunity to go to a dance until she was 16.
Yeah,
or maybe that's just what she told you, you loser.
Yeah, because she knows you're a stupid baby.
Yeah. She was a virgin when you met.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a strange episode.
All right, so we see a little bit of, like, disciplined daddy here, but we don't really get any kind of resolution. Then we go back to Steph and Lucy, who are outside of the girls' bathroom. And Steph is, like, putting on, you know, she's kind of sitting on the floor. She's putting on her shoes. Lucy's kind of, like, helping her out. I think she's going to go back to Lucy's or something. And Steph is sort of saying how much she regrets, like, what happened. She was, like, embarrassed. She's like, I've got to call Voula and Wheels tomorrow and apologize. So we do see that, like, Stephanie has, like, learned something in all of this, right? Like, she knows that she messed up and she has to, like, apologize to her friends. And we sort of see, at the beginning, we started with Lucy calling her broomhead, but Lucy's the one who's still there, helping her get home and, like, helping her, like, at the end of the dance, and they're kind of, like, talking things out. And then we end on a freeze frame of the empty hallway after Steph and Lucy have walked off together.
Another very good freeze frame.
Yeah, interesting that it didn't end on a specific person, but just kind of ended on... I mean, I guess this episode is about the school dance, so it's just like, here's the school, goodbye.
Yeah, I think usually it ends on just the most unflattering freeze frame they can muster. And
but they were like, Steph has been through enough.
Can't relate.
I feel like maybe just that tiny bit Lucy, because I think I sort of equally didn't have a ton of parent supervision, and other people liked coming over to my house and, like, messing around, being loud. I mean, no one was drinking, but, like, just being rowdy and being silly, and there weren't really a lot of consequences there, but I wasn't always participating in that rowdiness. But I was fine sort of observing it. So I felt a bit Lucy-like.
Mm-hmm.
How about you guys?
Still don't feel totally represented, I don't think. I did notice Caitlin Ryan was just, like, she was, like, dressed in black and just dancing at the dance, and I was like, okay, well, maybe that's me. So I still only identify myself as, like, secondary characters who aren't really doing much yet, but are just sort of, like, around.
Yeah, that's right. Weren't Caitlin and Joey dancing together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Something that really doesn't get addressed.
I felt like I identified with Voula. I never really did. As we've established, I was extremely boring as a child, but I always felt like my parents were maybe not quite as strict as her dad, but they could approach that level of strictness, which I was always like, okay.
Because there were things in your house you weren't allowed to say or watch.
But and The Simpsons.
You were not allowed to say but.
Nope.
So, friends, what did we learn from today's episode?
I learned, as stated earlier, that parents just don't understand.
and not only that, I think it's that Voula's parents are not even trying to understand. Like, her dad is refusing to understand her position,
they
right?
Just don't
They just
understand.
Okay.
I learned that sometimes it's okay to lie to your parents. I think a certain amount of subterfuge can be necessary with strict parents. If what you're doing is relatively benign, it seems kind of okay. Voula wasn't going to get up to anything really wild. She wasn't going to be doing anything that kept her out until midnight. She wasn't going to be drinking. She wasn't going to be doing drugs. She wasn't even going to be kissing anybody. She left enough room between her and Arthur for the Holy Spirit when they were dancing. I think it's okay. And I still, as we previously mentioned, I liked that when she told her dad a lie, she still was like kind of telling the truth a little bit. So it wasn't so bad. That's where I've landed on this one.
I guess what we've learned, or what I've learned, is that pre-gaming is almost always a mistake. Do not let yourself be peer pressured into such things. It usually ruins whatever subsequent experience you are about to go have. And yeah, I mean, I think we also saw a lot of sort of different parenting styles in this episode. So we have Steph, who is kind of hiding her true self from her mom and is feeling like she has to kind of live this double life to be able to express herself how she wants to express herself. And then we also see Lucy's parents, who she describes as like pretty cool and hands-off, but her mom does call to like see, like, you know, to kind of check in on her, so her parents aren't totally absent. And then we also see Voula's dad, who is like overly kind of strict and like repressive. And so I guess we don't really necessarily see a great example of parenting in this episode. But I guess we just kind of learned, like, you know, like they're starting to see like there are consequences for these things, but also sometimes it feels important enough to push back against your parents to kind of like face those like consequences.
I think we also learn a little bit about peer pressure in this episode in a few different ways. So there's just there's the peer pressure where people are telling Voula, oh, you have to go to the dance, everyone's going. There's the peer pressure of feeling like you have to tell people that you've done something before that you haven't. There's also the peer pressure then again on Voula where they're like, well, this all was your idea, you have to give the speech. And so there's a few different ways that people are being pressured, and in some of those ways it's very clear and very direct, and people saying like, you have to do this thing. And then there's also that sort of internalized pressure that they're all putting on themselves to feel like they're keeping up with each other and that they're proving that they're just as cool or just as experienced or just as advanced. And I think that that's also, we're getting a look at like the different ways that teenagers can be pressured to make decisions.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that was really good.
The perfect summary to the episode. All right, so that was the big dance, and next week we will be watching The Experiment.